and welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. I am Richie Richey from the MHRT Network with fiber internet connected and ready to go. Woo.
Ransom was paid. Kidnappers let you go.
They did, sort of.
What'd you say, Richie? You're cutting out again.
Once we told them the network didn't negotiate with terrorists,
Yeah.
we were able to work something out.
So, anyways, guys.
So if we don't like what you say, we're just going to say your internet's cutting out. We just can't hear you.
That's weird because the guy that told me just says they just ignore you because they think you're a Raiders fan. But anyways, sorry, I had to. It was low-hanging fruit. But anyways, guys, we have got a great show for you today. The AFC West has not disappointed as it comes to solid games, interesting games, and if you would like to bet either for or against my Denver Broncos, given my track record thus far, you may want to pay attention to what I'm about to say about my team and what we're about to do, because so far I am 2 for 2. So with that in mind, over here to my left or right, depending on which way you are facing your screen, we have the real Alex Gibbons. You can catch him on the Lightning Fast Fantasy Podcast with him and Coach Defense, where they will set you straight in terms of what to do with your fantasy team. Alex, if there's any Broncos stuff, feel free to ask me here, and I will send you packing over to the Lightning Fast podcast.
I don't think Rich is going to take that off the screen.
Never have a Broncos player on fantasy.
unless you're doing defense.
Yeah. Unless it's dynasty.
The opposite defense.
Unless you have defense that's also included. The answer is maybe, and then it's a no. But anyways, down below here we got Mr. Robert Garcia representing his powder blue Los Angeles Chargers,
first place in the AFC West.
And yes.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
We got one more week.
Down diagonally here on the right of my screen, probably your left as you are watching, we have Jack Kenna repping the Las Vegas Raiders. Jack, thanks for joining us again and giving us the information. As I said to Captain Jack and to Violator earlier today, congratulations on that win. Well-deserved, well done. The Ravens, while they have not had a great start to their season, they are still a tough out. They really are. And you guys did very well to beat them. So congratulations.
Thank you, Richie, and salute, nation.
That was in Baltimore too, right? Sorry, Rich, to cut you off.
Yeah, it was in Baltimore.
That's a huge win for you guys. I did not see that one coming at all.
No,
I didn't see it coming really either.
There was many in with the Raiders fan base that I was following that in their Twitter feeds were like, didn't have that one on the bingo card.
No, it's crazy. It was just like the very first game, like the roles reversed. The Raiders were like the Chargers in game one. It's like they couldn't do anything at all in the first half. Third quarter, they were actually going further, downwards, and just turned it up at the end. So it was a wonderful comeback, that's for sure. And I had them losing by double digits, so that was a great job by, the whole squad.
I mean, AP deserves, I feel like, a ton of credit, especially after that week one kind of debacle where people were already calling for his head. And I mean, I think you guys maybe expected to come out of this, first two games 1-1. I don't think you were planning on losing to us and then beating the Ravens. But I mean, regardless, this is still, this is probably still the best situation for you guys. I feel like this is even better that you beat the Ravens because I feel like it just gives you even more confidence moving forward.
That's a tough one, but just because your Chargers an interdivisional game, so
that's true.
Versus just a straight conference game, so yeah, I'd almost want it to be the other way around, so that way I can talk smack versus you talking smack. So just for that alone, that would be worth it.
That's true. That's very true.
So how do you guys want to kick this thing off? You wanted to keep going Raiders, or?
I'd like to go right down the Raiders rabbit hole here. Anna, thank you for joining the show. Great having you here and joining us live. Jack, I want you to go right down the rabbit hole in the Raiders game versus the Ravens. I caught a little bit of it. I will say, for the second consecutive week, the one-man wrecking ball that is known as Max Crosby had himself a good game as well. Let's go right down and talk about your Raiders and how you pulled off the win against the Ravens.
Yeah, it was defense, and believe it or not, Minshew. Out of all guys.
Minshew
So
mania.
yeah, let's hand it off. Start off with Max. I mean, Max is he's the real deal. I mean, I think, if he just keeps playing the way he's playing, he was defensive player of the week. So he had 5 tackles, 4 for a loss, 1 assist, 2 sacks, and 1 pass breakup. So, I mean, just straight domination. And for a guy that never leaves the field, I mean, I don't know. Teams, I don't know. I don't know any other player right now that can stack up against that kid. I mean, he's so impressive, and I think if he just keeps going the way he's going, his goal is to be the ultimate Raider. He wants to be number 1 in Raiders history, And honestly, I'm a big Jim Otto fan, but I hope he takes it over. I want to see a guy, versus somebody I saw when I was a kid for like a season and then maybe a little bit more, but not much, and it was all on TV. So hats off to Max, but there's a lot of guys I got to give hats off to in this game as well. I mean, it's just not Max. I mean, staying on the defensive side, Spillane, absolutely a beast in this game. 8 tackles, 2 assists, 1 pick. And, a lot of people don't know this, but he was a UDFA. And he's already passed his head coach in tackles. So he's one of the, I think he's, if not the most, one of the top guys ever as a UDFA.
Sorry, who?
For the Raiders, Spillane.
That guy's just a walking Raider, in my opinion.
He is a walking Raider.
He can't play for anyone else.
He's got a great first name.
You're right. He shouldn't play for anyone else. I don't want him to play for anybody else.
Just a white dude that wears a dark visor. That's a Raider.
So, yeah, man, that guy was all over the field. I mean, he was like in the mix with everything. So the Raider defense it's fitting the billing right now, and it is something for until like the second half of last year. Raider Nation really hasn't experienced a really good defense in a long time. So this has been a lot of fun and a lot of excitement to watch, and it keeps those guys in the game in each and every game. Because as good as the Raiders defense has been, there's some guys on the Raiders offense has been kind of the absolute opposite. And for one of them, which is a stalwart, and the best offensive lineman the Raiders have, and that whole group has actually been really trash. I mean, it's probably one of the worst offensive lines, in the league right now.
Have you seen Chicago play?
I was just about to say Chicago.
Or even the Panthers, you know what I mean? But the Raiders have given up a league-leading 9 sacks. 9 in 2 games.
You're welcome.
I mean, that's hard to come back from. And, it's the craziest thing is, Colton Miller, who is the Raiders' best offensive lineman, he's given up 4 of them. But, that's what happens when you don't go, you have off, surgery, you miss everything. OTAs, preseason, all that stuff. And then, game 1 starts and then you throw him out there. So, watching him get beat and getting beat on a regular basis, it kind of hurts. Some of these other guys, I mean, the Raiders started Pete over Whitehair, and he lasted a series because he was a turnstile, and he had to put Whitehair back in. So Raider Nation is actually, clamoring for JPJ. Well, Raider Nation, I will say this: if Colton Miller, who's been doing this at a high level, and JPJ has had the same thing where no practice, no nothing, been hurt basically since the Senior Bowl, and you want to throw him out there, you may want to think twice about that. So
Gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, I mean, so it's not looking good for the Raiders' offensive line, and it's not looking good for the Raiders' running backs. I think the only team that's worse is the team that the Raiders are going to be playing this week is the Panthers. They can't get anything going. I mean,
I bought into Samir White, man. You
I
fed
did
me the
too.
Samir White
but I did
stuff
say this.
all off season. Talked about his biceps, how big he was. My God.
If you could just do bodybuilding, he would be on top. But the problem with Zeus last year, what's up, OG? Yeah, that's my brother right there. So the problem with Zeus is that, you know, from last year is that he doesn't have vision, so it's hard to run inside. So last year they used him just to kick him out on the outside. And when Josh got hurt, well, it was the last 4 weeks of the season. So everybody's banged up, right?
Yeah.
And you're completely fresh. And you're getting 100 yards per game. And I think everyone, you know, bought into the Kool-Aid. I wish we had a poll because I've seen this on a lot of Raider shots. You know, I've been asking, now do we miss Josh Jacobs?
I bet we're gonna see some yeses here
after what he did with
Leave
Green
the
Bay
comments
last
down
week.
below in the chat.
Yeah, you guys are definitely missing
Yeah,
Jacobs.
man.
You guys would look like a completely different team this year if you still had Jacobs running. Even if the O-line wasn't playing as well, I think Jacobs just in and of himself would have just carried that offense to a higher point of what they're at right now.
Absolutely, I agree. And you know, and that you look at the contract, it was a 4-year, $48 million, $12 million per year. But I think, you know, if I'm correct, I think Green Bay has an out after this season. So, and from what I understand, it's like they didn't really offer him anything. So it's like I wish they would have done that.
Probably pissed him off. I mean, they went through it the first time and then tagged him. So, you know, it just
tagging a player and then not, you know, like I'm assuming they told him when they tagged him, like, hey, like, we just need to see one more year. Like, we know you got this. Like, we got the bag for you at the end. And for that to just kind of fall through. Yeah, to just say nah, which is crazy to me, knowing that you're going to Minshew, somebody that, I mean, Minshew isn't horrible, but he's not like a proven, you know.
He needs help.
He needs help. Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know. It's definitely I think the Raiders looking back on that one, like, yeah, we messed that one up.
Robert, the other thing
with Getsy too. I mean, I don't think there was no Bears running back that was successful last year. It was all Fields running. So I mean, it might be some of the guy, you know, running the train, so to speak, and not knowing how to effectively use him. I mean, he like, I mean, to your point, Jack, he did get in when people were banged up, and I mean, he probably understood the writing on the wall of, like, if I play good, I might be Josh Jacobs next year, you know, and grasp that moment. But it's like right now, it just is new scheme. They don't seem to be using him the way he balled out last year, or even really trying to emphasize the run. I mean, he only had 9 carries.
Actually, this comment here is the one that I'd like to extend upon. Yeah. So, all right, so let's run with this.
Let's run with it. OG and I have had conversations about Carr, you know, behind the scenes. We'll sit there and talk for like a half an hour on it.
Right, but
and we've done it many times.
Right, but Jack, I know you've seen me on Captain Jack's channel a fair amount. I know I've been here a fair amount, right? Which is, I'm actually a huge Derek Carr fan. Like, I've always been a fan of Derek Carr. In fact, I've been consistent in saying the Raiders made a mistake when they let Derek Carr go. Wi-Fi Willie and I are quite friendly with one another as well. He's a huge Derek Carr guy as well. If you watch his content at all, he certainly doesn't hold any punches back when it comes to his fandom of Carr either. But
talk about my new fantasy QB.
Yeah. So, but when you look at what Carr has done with the Saints, everyone kept on saying he was struggling, but yet he's had some of his better statistical years. He has slowly progressed the team forward. He is certainly a stable force there in the quarterback room. And I think if you look at what the Raiders are right now,
he's
the guy you're really missing.
Oh, absolutely. Here's the thing with Derek Carr. So let's talk about this because, Derek Carr's had it like one way or the other. They've either had like a really good offensive line and a good running back, but didn't have any weapons at all. Or you have some weapons, but you don't have any offensive line. And then, the whole thing with Carr, his last season is that, again, respect the captain because it's his channel. I agreed. I won't call him Mick Shitnuts, Mick Dummy, Mick Stupid, Mick Turd, or any of that. I only will call him Mick Fired. Yeah. And, Cap came up with that. And that's because, when he was under McDaniels, he's all just run the play. Don't audible. And that's like one of Carr's better strengths is to be able to audible out of what he's in. And what's up, DZ? And then, and to go into something else. And this year, and he never had a top defense in all the years he was there. So to put Carr, again, fantasy, right? If you could bring back Jacobs and Carr onto this team, then I would say there's definitely, contention.
That's what I was going to say too. I don't know that the Raiders necessarily messed up moving on from Derek Carr. They messed up by firing Josh McDaniels and giving him the keys to just do whatever he wanted. I mean, because if from all speculative reports we've read since McDaniels was in and got fired, I mean, it sounded like the front office's plan was to move on from Derek Carr to get CJ Stroud, which everyone was on board with, but one person who wanted Jimmy Garoppolo. I think we could all figure out who that one person was, but I think if that happened, I mean, certainly, who knows if he turns into the CJ Stroud he is now, but I'd be willing to bet you wouldn't be reflecting on Derek Carr as badly as you are right now.
No, and that was actually, he was Jimmy G was, the second option to him because he really thought he was going to get Brady back. And Brady's just like,
that's what he wanted. He wanted someone that, would run his offense and came from his old, his old stomping grounds.
John, yeah.
That's just a weird how that whole thing played out.
But. I mean, the only New England Patriot that, that's worthy anything that he brought over is Myers.
Yeah.
Myers is good. He is a good player.
Talking about dude, Brandon Bolden. He's been all right.
Oh, dude, Brandon Bolden. It's like nobody in the nation wanted Bolden.
That guy just looks like some dude that plays basketball at the Y every morning. And, shouldn't be athletic, but is.
He walks slower than Captain Jack, man. That dude is like slow.
Oh man.
So on kind of going over a couple other guys. So I just thought this was kind of interesting. Again, I got to give well, I won't say the name yet, but I just wanted to throw this out at you guys. Just two quarterbacks. And, what their kind of general stats and, which one do you like better? You have one quarterback that's got 3 touchdowns, 3 picks, and 442 yards. And one quarterback that's got 2 picks, 2 TDs, and 533 yards. So 3 picks, 3 touchdowns, 442, or 2 picks, 2 touchdowns, 533.
Man, it's like,
they're kind of the same.
Yeah, it's basically it's like the lesser of two evils.
I'm going to go with the touchdown one.
What's the yards on the 3 and 3?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What are the yards on the 3 and 3?
442 versus 533.
I think I would go with the 2 and 2 and 533.
Go 2 and 2.
Yeah, because you're turning the ball over less. At that point, that's all
you're turning the ball over less. And you have more yards per throw.
You got more points than the other guy.
And you got more points.
No.
Yeah.
No. The
ratio is
No. Yeah. Rich. No. But I'm with Richie on this one. I'm the biggest, like, if your quarterback is turning the ball over consistently, you're not going anywhere. And I've kind of had
Alex. When you turn the ball over 3 times, when I refer to points, I just want to caveat. I see that as net points because when you're turning the ball over 3 times, it stands to reason that at least 2 of those 3 turnovers have resulted in, at minimum, a field goal by the opponent.
Well, what do we talk about your guys' 2 turnovers? I mean, there's only 1 turnover difference and 1 touchdown difference in the 2.
Yeah, but you're going further down the field.
Well, I know, but I mean, your guy has turnovers as well, so I'm just saying,
Well, I mean that was my point with this. It's like picking the lesser of 2 evils. It's basically a 1-to-1 TD to interception ratio, so that's a wash, and then you're just going by yards at that point. Like, give me more yards and less turnovers. I'll take that all day.
So that
quarterbacks.
that was Minshew versus Mahomes. So
wow.
I got to at least get one jab in, because this is probably the one and only time that I could ever give a Minshew jab over Mahomes. So I had to bring that up. I had to bring it up.
Yeah, so we'll see where it's at week 8.
Is Minshew the 2-2 with the 530?
Yeah.
Or is okay, yeah.
So he's like number 2 or something in yards. He's got one of the highest completion percentage, but yes, it's been because the offensive line is so bad. You're only throwing it, behind the line of scrimmage, and you're getting yak or a couple yards down the field and getting a catch, and hopefully you're getting yak off of that. But I had to do it because I have a sneaky suspicion this is going to be like maybe the one and only time I'm ever going to be able to do that kind of comparison. So I had to take advantage of it when I could. So sorry, Alex. I had to do it, bro. So
I started with you, man.
Well, Jack, the other thing you have going for you with your team is teams respect the fact that you are still going to remain balanced, because your head coach has proven that he will remain balanced, generally speaking. Even if a run game may not be working right now, you're going to be working in different concepts to try to keep the run game and see if you can't get a spark in that run game. Right? It's just, it's a fact. And so if you lay off the gas when it comes to the run defense, then they're going to gash you with throw or with a run rather. And then if you then, lay in an extra man in the box or cheat the box or whatever, well, then Minshew is going to make you pay with a throw down the field, because he is a playmaker, like it or not. And this is why I predicted Minshew to likely win the starting job for you guys, is that I think he's just a better quarterback. He just is. He is a guy that can take good protection and make something even better out of it. And he can take really bad protection, which he's had almost his entire career. Like, the dude has been on trash teams almost his entire career and done something pretty well with them. Like he has made himself look like a stalwart, serviceable kind of second-tier quarterback in the NFL behind, your upper echelon guys. He's in that next tier, in my opinion, simply because he's never been on a team that has been exceptional, ever.
Agreed. I mean, again, what a lot of people probably don't know, he did make the Pro Bowl, but the Pro Bowl nowadays is not what it was, years and years ago.
Pro Bowl.
I know, but nobody wants to play if you're a quarterback. But I got to give him his props because he's earned it, and I was able to jab Alex, so that's good. But I will say this about Minshew. It's like, again, the offensive line is one of the worst offensive lines in the league. And the running game is ranked second to last. So when you don't have an offensive line, you don't have a run game. Yeah, you're going to complete these stinking dunk passes.
5 sacks in that game. That's
9 sacks, Alex, in 2 games.
Yeah,
that leads the league. Bad. So as good as the Raiders defense has been playing, this is how bad the Raiders offense has been.
I was going to say, you guys had no business winning.
No, you really did.
I mean, look at that. Just the Ravens had 151 rushing to your 27. They should have dominated. They should have dominated
crazy, Robert?
Possession, but they didn't.
150 to 27.
Yeah, but look what they did. They held Lamar, and they did a way better job than what KC did against them. I think it was 40. Alex was 40-something yards rushing versus 122.
Yeah, but I mean, if you want to throw out jabs, KC did way better job of stopping Derrick Henry than you guys did.
True. True that.
Cuts both ways, Jack.
I know it does, but hey, I got to do it when I can, man. Because if I don't do it now, I'm probably not going to do it for a while.
But yeah, no. Lamar was 5 for 45.
So they kept him in checks, and that's the thing. The defense is definitely pulled their weight. So with that being said, too, but you look at the Raiders' offense, and in the way of just the receivers, Devontae stepped it up. What do you have? He had nine catches for 110 yards, a touchdown, and an absolute phenomenal. And yes, his toe was in. It wasn't on the line or anything like that. Phenomenal catch by him. And then you got to look at what they say, the generational talent. And this is where I can actually get another jab, which is good. So I get 2 jabs, one show. In Bowers, setting records again for week number 2. And I think all he needs is 4 receptions, and then he's going to set another record. So all he needs is 4 next week against the Panthers. So in Bowers, he got 9 for 98. So
all 9 of his targets didn't miss a single ball. So that's. I mean, I was going to mention it too before you had brought him up, but Bowers is the key to this offense unlocking, because you need to put another receiving threat on the field that can shy away defenses from just simply doubling Adams and saying, let one of your other guys beat me. Because that's been the strategy against the Raiders for easily the last probably year and a half, maybe. It's Devontae or bust. Once you guys lost Jacobs, that was it. You guys only had Devontae. And I know I kind of poo-pooed the Brock Bowers pick, his best player available, but he really, truly can change your offense for you.
Well, that's the whole thing. I was wondering with your Chargers, are they going to go Bowers or are they going to go Alt? So, I was wondering what was going to go on there.
Working out. Just saying.
And I'll be asking you about him when it's your time on that for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it opens up the keys, to everything. It really opens up that defense. And you look at it, it's he's had to learn, as being a rookie, not only a tight end position, the slot position, the outside position, and then also the fullback position. So that's a lot to throw at a young guy, and especially when tight ends don't normally do this good.
They don't.
When you look at him, he's number 13 out of all the receivers in the NFL right now. Number 1 in tight ends, but 13 overall in the entire NFL. And who I did not see on that top 5 list?
Kelsey.
Yep. Did not see Kelsey. So I will ask you when it's your time, is Kelsey, is it, I kind of saw Father Time catching up on last year. I just thought it was a Swiftie thing, just having too much fun with her and putting football second. But now I'm starting to wonder if Father Time is actually catching up with him. And on top of that, there was an interview with Gronkowski with Devontae, and Gronk actually said that he sees, Bowers actually passing him up. And so that's pretty mad respect right there when you got the Gronk, saying something like that.
The only thing that you have with Bowers is it's great as a rookie doing what he's doing right now in the earlier stages. Obviously, he's got a lot of stats that he's putting up. The question is, how is he doing in the blocking game? Because that's where that's really what set Rob Gronkowski apart from, say.
Well, that's the one thing that, I agree, Richie. That's the one thing that Gronk did say in that interview, that he said he thinks he's a better blocker than Bowers.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is that what really separated Gronk from, say a Gonzalez or Shannon Sharp or someone who's like that. See, I did that just for you guys. Or even Gates, right? With the Chargers, they're all great tight ends. They could catch the ball really well, but really out of those 3 that I just mentioned, Sharp is really the only one that stayed in line and blocked with any degree of proficiency out of all of those 3, right? I'm sorry, it's just a fact. And it's really what separated Shannon Sharp from, say, those other guys, was that the demand on him to also be a blocking tight end, but be that passing weapon as well. And that's why he's got a gold jacket. Like he was that dual threat on the field of being able to do both. And it allowed the offense to succeed, but it also, for different reasons, he was an elite pass catcher, but they also couldn't count on him to only be that big wide receiver on the field, because he could be there and just simply block to break a big run or whatever the case may be. So then the question is, can Bowers be the extension of the offensive line when he needs to be? Yes or no? We'll see.
We'll see. Because you know what? I didn't get the opportunity to see the game. Right now it's on replay. I just finally got it today. So I'm gonna watch the whole thing. But when Bowers is blocking on a slot receiver, outside receiver, he's definitely got the matchup. He's going to tower, over those guys. So not only is he got to block inline guys, he's going to have to block outline guys too.
Someone with that ability, you ask to maybe chip the edge player, but you're not wasting them blocking. Just saying.
Well, I mean, the thing with Shannon Sharp and why he was so involved in the blocking and the run game aspect is because that's what the era of football was back then. It wasn't a passing offense. I guarantee you, if Sharp had played in this era of football, he would have done way less blocking and much more receiving and going out on routes. But I think that for the Raiders, at least what they need right now, they need another receiving threat opposite of Devontae, whether that's another receiver or that's Bowers. They need someone else to take coverage off of Devontae, because Devontae, I mean, I was listening to someone talk about Gardner Minshew. I think it was a former Colts fan.
Whoa.
And they were talking about they were I don't know, man, because 98 yards probably without those probably loses you that game against Baltimore. But I mean, regardless, right now the defense is, like you said, or oh my god, I'm getting sidetracked here. Jesus. The biggest thing you need right now is another receiving option opposite of Devontae. That's what Bowers needs to be right now. Now, whether he is able to show you his blocking ability in certain run schemes, but like we talked about before, your run game is the worst or second worst in the league. So, I mean, why waste him right now blocking for a run game and attack that isn't really going anywhere, if that makes sense?
Well, we just got to see what Gatsby does and how he utilizes them, and in the run. Because it's like I haven't seen a lot of, again, so far from what I've seen, a lot of chipping, a lot of all that type of stuff. It's been a lot of one-on-one from Gatsby. So I would like to see more of that, because when you have him and Michael Mayers, two big body guys that are uber talented, you got to utilize them. And I will say this too. So this is something, just from I did not watch a lot of Georgia games last year. Really, I didn't watch any Georgia games. But, you always hear like on highlights, Brock Bowers. And again, being a big Michael Mayers fan, Notre Dame guy. And, I'm like, man, this guy, the whole offense runs through him. But who's this Brock Bowers, kid? Why isn't Mayers getting that type of, rep? And now I'm seeing it, because I'm looking at what Brock Bowers has been doing and what Michael Mayers has been doing. It's just like on two different levels.
The two,
night and day.
Yeah, I mean, crazy.
I actually kind of agree with what Marv was saying, and for the simple fact of this, which is for the same reason why my Denver Broncos are struggling right now. I actually think that the Raiders, it's like if you look at the diagonals on their screen right now, the Chargers went offensive line and have now solidified their front and are keeping themselves in games and, in fact, winning games now because of the fact that they're able to play their brand of football with a vision from a head coach that they have now that's able to solidify that in place. So credit where credit's due in terms of seeing a vision and executing that vision and having the front office and ownership willing to do that. Now, the Chiefs did that all along. They went up and traded for Mahomes, but before they got Mahomes, they solidified the entirety of their offensive line before Mahomes ever even stepped a toe into the door of KC. And, everyone keeps on saying Mahomes is a generational quarterback. It's like, yeah, sure. But he had the benefit of an exceptional offensive line when he started as a rookie, which I'm sure did not hurt his growth trajectory when he was with the Chiefs in the early stages of his career, which Alex, as a former lineman, can attest to how key that is for a quarterback to have proper blocking in front of them and having that flexibility. Yeah. Now, when you look at the diagonals here between the Broncos and the Raiders, we're in the exact opposite camp. And I guess my only point here is, well, while we have seen winning by all teams except for my Denver Broncos, the point is that the Chiefs and the Chargers have done so more convincingly, and they have executed what they want to do. So as have the Chiefs as well, by the way. That Bengals game was great to watch. Like, what an entertaining game. But we'll talk about that later.
Well, let's bring it back, excuse me. What what Marv said, in the way of Fuaga. All of Raider Nation, including myself, again, having a tight end already you taken in the second round the year before, which was my top tight end, one of my favorite players coming out of Notre Dame. Fuaga was on the board. And the Raiders, desperately needed, I still think they need a right tackle. And, he was the best pure right tackle coming out there. So it's like kind of what I just said to Robert, like, hey, there's Bowers, and then there's Alt. And then, it drops down to us, and then it's like you got Fuaga, which everybody wanted on the Raiders. That's the guy who we thought we were going to get, or trade up for a quarterback. And then Bowers out there. And a lot of the nation, it literally took probably 24 to 48 hours for a lot of us Raider fans to sit there and go, okay, I can see this. He's just not a tight end. He's a Swiss Army knife that can play all these different positions, which you can use them all across the board. Yeah, that's a game changer. So that was a tough 24 hours, in digesting that, because I really wanted Fuaga to be a Raider at that point.
I just want to quickly address two quick things. Mike, you clearly don't pay attention to what I say much, if that's your comment. We'll just leave it at that. I got first off, I got like hundreds of hours at this point of video live online with me slamming my Denver Broncos offensive line. So you can miss me with that comment. And then second, yeah, and second,
good to see you.
Yeah, and then second, I actually think this is just a fundamental team building change in terms of what the Raiders are doing, and I think that they're making the same mistake as my Denver Broncos. The only difference is I think the Raiders have a more flexible ownership group who actually cares, because he's been around the game of football enough. And that is, your owner right now in Davis is certainly willing to change directions fairly quickly to try to win better and more and do better things. Like, he got Devontae Adams, which is a great offensive weapon, et cetera, et cetera. But right now, I don't think it is a secret, and I think you would agree, that you're not necessarily, you don't have like an elite quarterback on your team. While I love Minshew, he's certainly not an elite quarterback. I'd actually put Minshew in a similar category as I would Alex Smith for the Chiefs. I think he's very good. And I mean that. I think he's very good. I think he can extend and make plays, but he is not going to get you to the next level and the next step. So you need to bring in a different quarterback to replace him in order to get you to that next level. The problem is that you, like my Denver Broncos, are missing 2 or 3 members of your offensive line to actually make yourself competitive within the division and the league. And you had an opportunity to grab a guy, in my opinion, who's, by the way, showing out that he deserved the pre-draft banter that he was getting. And you could have solidified him on your team easily, and you already had a tight end on your roster. And by the way, better offensive line play also improves the tight end guys that you already have on your roster, including Myers.
Carlos, no, we don't want Bryce Young.
Hey, you never know, man.
No, I don't want that. Sorry.
There's only one place Bryce Young could go to have maybe somewhat of a revival of his career, and it's Miami. That is the only spot that he would ever see any little bit of success with.
You know what? And that might not be a bad move for Miami right now with Tua.
Right?
I mean, is Tua, is he really going to come back? I mean, he's just got that big contract and having so many concussions, being so young. I mean, what's more important is your health or the game when you're already going to get millions upon millions in your separate generational wealth?
He tried to come back, Jack. He just drove to the wrong building. His head's so messed up from all the sorry.
Drove to Alabama.
Sorry.
Knocked him back to the championship game.
He heard Dolphins were having practice and went out to Miami Beach.
Yeah. He drove to the local high school instead of the stadium and said, "I'm here to play, coach.
Put me in, coach."
Yeah, put me in.
Hey, he's short enough. They might have believed him.
Where's Bobby Boucher? It's just one of those things where at some point you'd hope that he'd have someone in his life like Tua in that regard that would kind of say, dude, like
stop, please,
just stop. Like just stop.
He needs to talk to Junior Seau somehow. Do a seance.
Yeah, I think there's only one way for him to talk to Junior Seau, and if he continues to keep playing, he'll talk to him real soon. No, Tua needs to retire. This it's no way in hell. If the doctors medically clear him, or sorry, not clear him. If the doctors medically retire him like forcefully, he will get any.
He'll get some of his.
Yeah, I think he gets like 120 mil, I think, or something like that.
127. They have like an insurance policy on his contract, so I mean, there's some offset to it, but I understand the reservations with him playing, but at the same time, I'm not going to blame someone for trying to make millions upon millions of dollars in a very small window of their life, for, like Jack said, to set up generational wealth, because what's he going to do if he doesn't play?
Well, he already got the contract, right?
Yeah, but he wants all of it. Yeah, he wants the whole contract he got. But honestly, Miami should go look at two people, and Rich, you're going to hate the second one. Bryce Young and Russell Wilson. Those are the two quarterbacks that Miami should turn to right now, because those two quarterbacks both fit into Miami's system perfectly. One is a younger Tua in Bryce Young. One is an older Tua in Russell Wilson. So and Russell, you get the running ability. I know it's not nearly what it was, but it's still more than what Tua possesses, and that's nothing. So not that this to turn this into an AFC East podcast, but it's got to be one of those two.
Actually. Do you know who I think would actually be an interesting pickup for them, but they'd have to give away, I think, substantial draft capital, would be to try to target Zach Wilson.
I did not ever expect to hear Zach Wilson and substantial draft capital used in the same sentence.
Well,
that's what confused me. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Well, the point is that the Broncos traded a pittance to get him, and he's already shown that a change of scenery, he's certainly a more serviceable quarterback than he was when he was with his former team. And so I think that's where I'm kind of getting at, which is you have let's put it this way. Tua is on the downward trajectory in his career, and he's just started. And yes, Cool Kev, I agree. Dangerous. And I mean legitimately dangerous for Zach Wilson in Miami.
In Miami.
Yeah, but
he's home.
Yes, he is. But
if you're trading moms, then you're gonna get not.
What? What happened?
Want that on? He did not want to be on record for his wife to see later. The point, though, is that Zach Wilson is a younger quarterback who's got the potential to, again, probably not be an elite quarterback in the NFL because that ship has long sailed, but certainly be a well above average quarterback, at least maybe at or around where Minshew is right now, if he continues to develop a little bit more, which is not bad, by the way. That is not a bad place to land in the NFL in terms of the hierarchy, in terms of quarterbacks. And let's put it this way. He's never been severely injured like Tua has. And I think that he's shown that he has the mobility to move around on the field, which is what Miami is looking for as a secondary dynamic out of a quarterback. So that's the only reason why I bring up Zach Wilson instead of, say, like another quarterback like Stidham on my roster. I actually think Wilson is actually a better fit for Miami, but I do think they're going to need to give up more draft capital than they would otherwise want to get Zach Wilson, because I think Sean Payton wants to keep him.
Wait, what's the guy? I forgot the guy's name. The guy from he's a free agent right now, Tennessee.
Tannehill.
Yeah, if you're going to go, you don't have to give up substantial moms or draft capital. Just go sign him.
Yeah.
Do you think if they were traded for Zach Wilson, everybody on the team would just tell their mom to move out of state? Like, you're not living in Florida anymore.
The games anymore, Mom. Don't ask why.
You're not going to the locker room.
Oh man,
no.
They're in a rough spot right now.
There's a few
but
teams like that.
to pull it back a little bit to our teams.
There you
again, go. I guess I'll talk about my team, and this is
how did Alt do?
Alt did amazing once again. Him and Slater were the two highest rated tackles this week from PFF, and I don't really look at PFF often, but I feel like the one thing I really do look at it for is for O-line grades. Everything else kind of just don't really put too much stock into it. But they played amazing. I mean, like I said, it was the Panthers with Bryce Young at QB. There was no competition. I think I said the score was going to be like 26-6 or something. I got it half right. I got 26-3. So this was not. I was never worried about this game, and it feels so great to say that as a Chargers fan now, because before I would be worried about every game. I mean, we lost 49-21 or whatever it was to the Texans that one year when we were supposed to be making a playoff push at the end. So to see us come out, dominate a worse team like you should is such a blessing. And I know Charger fans everywhere are like in agreement with that, because we've just had to deal with how are we going to lose this game this week? What is this team going to F up this week that, who's going to fumble late in the game? Is Herbert going to throw an errant pick? Like what's going to happen? So this was a great game. Obviously, Herbert didn't play great. I'll say that right off the bat. That interception he threw, probably like top 3 in terms of worst decisions and throws that Herbert has ever made. Because J.C. Horn was just sitting there in coverage, and he tried to roll out to the right, buy some time, make a play happen. He's been known to do that. So I wasn't upset at it. I didn't come away from that interception and be like, oh my God, Herbert, like, what are you doing? But I did look at it like, ooh, that was bad. Like, that was a bad throw. But it's still week 2. If there was ever a team for Herbert to play like this against and still come away with a win, it's the Panthers. Because I think if he plays this type of game against the Raiders last week, we definitely lose that. Those 2 turnovers were killer. But I think all that, despite how he played, I think everybody, all Charger fans, their heart kind of stopped when that fumble play happened. Not because Herbert fumbled the ball, but because he stayed on the ground for an extended period of time, and then finally got up, able to walk off the field in his own power. Clearly, you could see a limp there, and obviously, we find out it's the ankle afterwards. Harbaugh coming out in a press conference today, basically saying that he's totally good, so that's great to hear. But how much stock can I put in that? I don't, want to. I fully believed his Achilles tear, or his plantar fascia injury is completely gone. So I think Harbaugh is playing a little bit of recognizing we're going against the Steelers next week and that ferocious defense. So he's not trying to give them any ammunition whatsoever. No kind of bulletin board material. No nothing about Herbert, isn't playing well. So they just absolutely bull rush him. But good thing is, looks like everything's all right. And my MVP currently in for the league right now. Definitely a biased take. J.K. Dobbins, man, he has just been miles and miles better than what anybody expected. I mean, this was obviously a low risk, potentially high reward signing when we did get him. That was the biggest question coming into it: can he stay healthy? We know he had the talent. We saw it at Ohio State. We saw it with the Ravens when he was healthy. And so now it's just about lasting the season. But I mean, the dude's got 266 rushing yards in the first 2 weeks. 9.9 yards a carry through 2 weeks is ridiculous. I think he's like 4 yards per rush clear of the next closest. And he's leading the league in rushing yards with the least amount of rushing attempts out of anybody in like the top 15. Dude's rushing has 27 rush attempts, had 10 week 1, 17 this last game. And he's putting up that kind of production. And I wanted to address what Mike said about Herbert is becoming a game manager. Yeah. Hell yeah. Absolutely. I am owning this 1,000% because Herbert has had to be God and everything else in between for the last 4 years with no defense and no run game. You know, J.K. Dobbins in the first 2 weeks this season, obviously has rushed for 100 yards. You want to know who the last Chargers running back to do that was? Melvin Gordon in 2019. Everybody wants to talk about how great Eckler was, and he was great and fun to watch, don't get me wrong, but the dude never ran for back-to-back games at 100 yards because he was a better receiver than runner, and I'll go down to my grave saying this. And I mean, that's even evident in Washington now because I think he has more receiving yards than rushing yards right now in the season. But yeah, I mean, I am so happy of the way this team is constructed, the way this defense is playing, the way Harbaugh has these guys flying around. Everybody is completely bought into the mantra, to just his entire identity that he's brought to this team. And this week coming up against the Steelers, talk about it a little bit later, but that is the first like true test, I think, because that defense is probably yeah, he could catch better. But yeah, this Steelers defense is the first like of many, because there's going to be a lot more this season, but this is the first tough test that they're going to face.
Hey.
You know.
but I will say this, you know, the Steelers got a great defense, but you know, we'll find out what they can do on offense. And I will say, you know, I did watch, you know, a little bit. I watched the highlights, and I got to say, Robert, is like the transformation of the Chargers is so night and day, you know. And I got on my notes here, Harbaugh in like 3 different places, in just the way of the culture of your team, the dynamics of your team. Like you just mentioned, Dobbins, Chargers have never done that before. Like you said, it's been Herbert. It's all been on Herbert. And to see this transformation is such night and day. It's like, wow, it's just so impressive.
I mean, this is just, if there's ever somebody you want to look at, a player, I mean, and just show the difference from coaching from one year to the next, look at Quentin Johnston, man. I was wanting this dude to be cut from the team. Like, just straight up cut after a rookie year. That's how bad he was, or how bad the play calling had him being. Harbaugh, it's like insane how night and day he looks. The confidence that Harbaugh has instilled in him, because this is the one position group on the Chargers that I feel is, and I mean, it's not even close, is severely worse than the rest, and it's the wide receiver room. Or I should say the receiving room as a whole, because we don't have great receiving tight ends either, although Hayden Hurst and Will Dissly have made some nice catches here and there.
I think he's leading the AFC West in touchdowns. I mean, he's got 2. No one else has got 2, if I'm correct.
Yeah, he might be right. I think he's actually leading the league because there's like a bunch of players tied for 2 receiving touchdowns. But yeah, man, I mean, just to see him get that confidence back, 5 catches on 6 targets, 51 yards, 10 yards a catch, averaging 2 tutties, and that 29-yard bomb, well, not bomb, but that 29-yard pass that Herbert threw. I mean, that was a beautiful pass. It's something that QJ has struggled with his entire career and how short it's been. So to see him make some, a nice contested catch for a touchdown, and obviously wide open, end zone catch as well. It's just great, man. Everything that this team is doing right now, and I know it's Carolina, so I'm riding a little bit high. I'm still riding that Raiders win a little bit because that was pretty great. I'm so excited for this team. I'm actually genuinely excited to watch Charger games this year. Even if I go into it thinking we're probably going to lose this game, Harbaugh has that in the back of my mind. If we just stick around against some of these teams that we really shouldn't beat, namely the Chiefs, Bills, some of these playoff teams, we just have to stick around and just keep it close, keep time of possession. That's what Harbaugh wants to do. He wants to just control the clock, control the pace of play, keep that other superstar QB you're facing on the sideline for as long as possible, and just let the run game, the O-line, and Herbert cook. Herbert obviously needs to not, the one thing you need to do as a quote-unquote game manager is not turn the ball over. So I said against Carolina, you get a little bit of a pass because the defense is more than capable of being able to hold that. But I think, it's still early. Obviously, he missed a little bit of training camp with the injury, with the plantar fascia injury. So he's still getting into it a little bit as well. I'm not worried about him, though. I'm so excited for this team, man. It's been so fun to watch these first 2 weeks.
And Herbert's got the highest, QBR out of the whole AFC West right now. Yep, he might have the least amount of yards, but you don't have to throw. And he's got 3 touchdowns to 1 interception.
Does have a lost fumble in there. I'm a big turnover guy, so I always lump turnovers together. So he is 3-2 in terms of a touchdown to turnover ratio. But like I said, that'll get better. I'm nowhere near worried about how many yards Herbert is having to throw for. Everybody's saying oh, Herbert, is he not throwing for this many yards because it's a purely running attack or because he just can't and he's still injured? I'm if you're looking at these games and thinking that Herbert isn't throwing the ball because he's injured, you need to rewatch all of football, because there's no way in hell when you go 200 yards rushing in week 2. What was it week 1? 100, 180 or something like that. Basically go for over 160 rushing yards in back-to-back weeks. Why throw it? Why even risk it? There's no reason to try to force what we already know Herbert can do and what he's done in the past, which is torch defenses, just throw bombs, throw accurate passes. And what has that gotten us in the past? We have a new coach, so clearly it hasn't gotten us anywhere. So I'm loving this new Chargers identity. I'm loving the way this defense is playing. And yeah, man, this weekend is going to be it's going to be like a 9-3 game against the Steelers.
Robert, I think what your team the Raiders defense is legit. They are legit.
Oh yeah.
However, I think that your offensive line matched well against their defensive line, which kind of neutralized some of the elements of the Raiders defense against your offense. So I think that's a fair general statement to make. Where I will say is I think the Steelers are a bit deeper on the defensive side of the ball and have different skill sets than what the Raiders have at key positions on the defensive side of the ball. And trust me when I say this is not slander against the Raiders defense. This is just observing what I've seen thus far in the first 2 weeks of football. And I actually think that what you're going to see against the Steelers is the first time that Herbert is going to be pushed into needing to do things to win a game. And I'm not saying that he didn't need to do certain things against the Raiders. That's not what I'm saying.
He certainly didn't need to do anything against the Panthers.
No, he did not. And now that he has this ankle issue, which is probably just his plantar fasciitis acting up again, and they're just lying to the league. Neither here nor there. But I think what you're going to have now is, can he actually do the things on his own when he needs to in his current state? My answer is I'm not so sure.
My answer is just because I've seen him do it with Staley, and the defense is just let him down.
Oh, come on now. Okay,
dude, Herbert is like 26-8 when his defense allows 25 points or less. 25 points isn't even like a lot. He's 18-0 when his defense allows 20 points or less.
Dude, plantar fasciitis is not an injury that goes away quickly. He's hurt himself again, obviously, at the end of the Ravens game, or sorry, at the end of the Panthers game. Sorry. And so I'm sorry, but you're comparing apples to oranges when it comes to Herbert's health and where he is at then and now. The point is that he's going to likely need to do a few things. Look, I could be completely wrong. You guys could blow the Steelers out. Hey, cool. Good on you if you do, right? Good on you if you do. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're I think they're a less favorable matchup on the defensive side of the ball than you've had thus far.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just look at the teams the Chargers are playing this year. I mean, for like the first 5 weeks, the Chiefs are the only real offense we're facing. Not to, I'm kind of throwing shade at the other 2 teams in our division, but it's true. I mean, we had the Raiders, Broncos, Panthers. We play the Steelers next week, and it's Chiefs week 4. None of those teams have a good offense minus the Chiefs. So this is, I feel like these are the types of games the Chargers are going to even excel more in against teams that don't have great offenses, because as long as we're not turning the ball over, we have our solidified run game. Obviously, Dobbins isn't going to go 9.9 yards a carry for the whole season, but even if he's at 4.5, 5, I told Alex, if Dobbins averages 9.9 yards a carry for the entire season, we're winning the Super Bowl, man. It's like a foregone conclusion with that defense. Nah, man. I mean, it's we legitimately have a chance to start this season 4-1, and that is, I can't even remember the last time that was even a possibility that we were able to do that.
Wait, Robert. So, we know week 3. Who do you got 4-5 when you're calling that record?
Chiefs week 4.
Yeah.
Chiefs.
Chiefs would be the team I expected to lose in that 5-week stretch.
No, you're supposed to say we're going to win.
I mean, I'm not going to
when they won 9-6 against the Steelers, and we're going to hear they've got it all figured out.
Who's after that?
This 35-3.
No. The Steelers. The Chiefs are the litmus test for this team. If we're somehow 3-0, because if we lose to the Steelers, I wouldn't be. Unless if we lose to the Steelers, like, real talk, I wouldn't be like upset by it. I truly think. Listen, DZ, it's been a while, man. We've been
on that Harbaugh.
We've been miserable, man.
Yeah,
I was
the Harbaugh strain.
I was hitting that Staley patch for the longest time, man, and I needed
got off the Staley in rehab. Now he's on the Harbaugh.
I needed something more pure, and Harbaugh is more pure for sure. To answer your question, Jack, we have Chiefs week 4 after this Pittsburgh game, then our bye, then we go to Denver, and then we go to Arizona to play the Cardinals, and then it's the Saints.
Cardinals are rough.
Yeah, your team could be whooping some ass.
I honestly, I can't believe I'm even saying this, but one of the biggest litmus tests for our defense might be against the Saints, depending if they're actually legit or not. I don't know whether to call that a fluke or not after 2 games. They're definitely not going to keep up that offense, but I mean, dude, if the Saints have that kind of firepower, that might be an insane game for us. I was looking at that as a win, honestly. I was looking at the entire NFC South as a win, besides maybe the Bucks. But yeah, that might be another. Yeah, this exactly right, Mark. This is what Brandon Staley is up to right now. This is why I did not draft the Niners defenses in any of my fantasy leagues, because they're going to be trash this year. If you're losing a Sam Darnold, I mean, that just tells you everything you need to know about Staley.
Hey, now.
Staley benefited greatly from having
from being from the McVay tree.
Vic Fangio, like Vic Fangio has certain demands that he puts on the players, which has a great trickle-down effect, which is why you see his defenses just light up the league, generally speaking, when he is, in fact, the coach. And Staley benefited greatly from that in terms of a trickle-down effect in terms of how the defensive play calling was going. And so I think that Staley is coming back down to earth a little bit. And when I say a little bit, I mean crash and burn a little bit.
Into the core.
Yeah. So it'll be very interesting to see kind of where he lands after all of this, but it'll be very, very interesting to see how this stuff lands. I do want to kind of move away to kind of cover off a little bit on my Broncos, because I think there's quite a bit to cover in terms of what's happened, injuries and other things as well. Two things that I just want to bring up that are just general news about the Broncos. One, which is this year, 2 Denver Broncos are up for the Hall of Fame. One of them is Aqib Talib, who was obviously a former Patriot, but his career was very much kind of almost Peyton Manning-esque in terms of his time with the Broncos almost equaled his time or bettered his time with the Patriots. So that's going to be extremely interesting to kind of see how that goes. I think it's fair to say he was either first or second or tied for first for interceptions for touchdowns in terms of like return touchdowns. He certainly is a guy that I would expect to eventually or definitely make it into the Hall of Fame, given his track record in the NFL, winning multiple Super Bowls, etc.
And one chain pull.
Well, no, I mean, he was one chain away from 3 chains, right? And so, I mean, that in and of itself should get him into the Hall of Fame. And honestly, wouldn't it be hilarious if Crabtree visited his Hall of Fame bust and then put a 3rd chain over top of his bust?
Crabtree does not strike me as the type of guy to do something like that.
No, but that would be legitimate, the ultimate troll, if we're going to be perfectly on it. Like for sure. Anyways, the other guy is the gentleman that represents this T-shirt that I'm wearing right now, and that's Demaryius Thomas. We're talking about the Steelers game, Robert. Obviously, the Broncos just played the Steelers. The infamous catch from Tim Tebow to Demaryius Thomas to mint that new rule in the playoffs that the NFL implemented that very year, which had everyone perplexed. Just like, does that mean that we're done now? It's like, yes, it does. And so I think that's DT certainly had some pretty iconic plays in the NFL. I think he's going to ultimately struggle a little bit to get into the Hall of Fame, just because wide receiver is one of those positions there where everyone's on the upswing.
That is amazing. I never even knew that was a.
Too good.
I didn't even know that was a quote. That's amazing. I gotta find that video after.
Oh man, I don't know. The investigation's ongoing.
That's hilarious.
Oh, that's funny,
man. That's too good.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta look for this now.
Well, who's DT going into, or who is his class that is eligible, or the candidates this year, I should say?
So DT came in and around the same time as like Des Bryant,
like Kuechly, Marshawn, right? A couple of
like 2007.
Yeah.
In that general range, yeah.
Okay. I mean,
and
he might.
And he had apparently, like, his body while he was playing, he didn't have that sharp decline as aggressively as some other guys. Apparently, the head trauma that he experienced in the NFL was substantial. He just never let it show. And his post-playing days were apparently very rough. Like very rough, like as in like he clearly had PTS or CTE and other kind of predispositions to other mental disorders as a result of getting hit in the head too many times.
Oh man, yeah, that's tough. That's a tough one.
So, anyways, with regards to DT, that's what this shirt is. 88 with the angel things. He died. He actually died in his washroom as a result of drowning, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Which was kind of the official cause of death. It was deemed accidental. However, anyways, it was really tough. It was really tough to kind of see what happened to him because he kind of deserved better. I would have hoped that he had better people around him to really look after him. And it's pretty sad to kind of see kind of the latter part of his life, just in terms of what happened. And also an interesting piece is Demaryius Thomas's mom was actually caught up in one of the basically got caught in drugs and was put in jail and all that kind of stuff. But she was released as part of one of the early release programs and stuff that kind of was put in place under Trump, which was a really interesting thing because she got released, unfortunately, after he passed away, which was kind of sad to kind of see, right? But anyways,
it kind of an interesting fact. I used to work with his sister, in Colorado Springs for a couple years. Never got the chance to meet him, but I worked with his sister and talked to her a few times.
Yeah, he had the nickname Babyface because he just, he had that, that look where he, couldn't grow facial hair. I've never had that problem. Lucky. And it's kind of one of those things, right? Where that was his thing. But anyways, this shirt was about him. Obviously, Demaryius Thomas is now eligible for the Hall of Fame. I do believe it's going to be a tough go for him, and we'll go from there. But moving on to the second loss in a row for my Denver Broncos, I called it. I suspected that it was going to look exactly as it did. The Denver Broncos offensive line, we lost McGlinchey. He's now on IR. We did see a modest improvement when Pazlowski went in to fill in at right tackle. Pazlowski was a standout in last season's preseason as an undrafted free agent, a college free agent for my Denver Broncos. He got hurt in the early stages and then was placed on IR. So his stellar play is really no surprise to me. He kind of looked like he could be that kind of guy, but because of his draft or lack thereof position, he's never going to be given the benefit of the doubt. He's got to earn everything. So this is going to be his time to shine. He's got to go out and prove that he belongs in the NFL now, and he's got to outshine McGlinchey to basically make McGlinchey a second string. And for those of you who wonder why we're now on our third string right tackle rather than our second string guy got hurt in very early preseason practices, and he's now on IR as well. Now, he is actually. You're right, Cowtown.
I did like his interview. They said, "Take us through that interception." He goes, "I would throw it, threw it to the other team."
I will say they some of those questions that reporters ask are just straight like
stupid, dude.
Yeah, like what do you expect?
So I mean, they're basically what my whole point was with Bo Nix is, what did we expect from a rookie quarterback who never faced a true NFL defense in preseason? So he looked great, fantastic, high five. That doesn't mean that you're going to all of a sudden go out and kill it in the regular season because you never faced a true NFL defense. This basically starting this year probably is really the first year where all the NFL teams have kind of gone in lockstep in this regard. The preseason is an evaluation time for players. They're no longer putting in concepts to see necessarily how they work. They're going a step further. They're putting in vanilla versions of the more complex concepts that they intend to install as to not give anything away. In years past, we've seen this from all of our teams where we put in some of the actual defensive and offensive concepts that we intend to run. This year, all the teams pretty much put in bland versions of what we're now seeing on the field. I mean, it's exactly why the Chargers are now, 2-0, and why the Broncos won the preseason but suck in the regular season. There's just no beating around the bush or trying to hide it. The Broncos are not doing well this season so far. We won the preseason, but have not done well in the regular season. And we're seeing why, is that you're rushing a rookie quarterback out to play because they hope to sell more jerseys.
And Richie, I kind of see a lot of the same struggles that the Raiders are having, with what your Broncos are having. I mean, yeah, Nix is 4 picks, no touchdowns, 384 yards. But again, your offensive line is do you feel like it's just him being a rookie, or is it like the offensive line's so beat up? And then I see, again, Esime, is hurt. And then, Williams, 11 carries for 17 yards. So I feel like they're not giving him any help though either.
No, they're not.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there, and I'm going to blast through it in shotgun fashion. One, I told you Williams should be cut. I was pretty clear about that in the preseason, and he's still here. So guess what? Again, hate to do a victory lap, but I was right there too. Two is when you have a rookie quarterback, you need to have a competent offensive line. When you're running, so for example, the Chargers and the Chiefs have both gone out and solidified their offensive line in order to protect their quarterbacks. That's going to keep them upright, allow them to then take the time to read the field. When you have a rookie quarterback like Bo Nix, and frankly, I would also argue AOC 12, AOC 4 previously, right? So when you look at AOC 12, his issue is he is a pocket quarterback. Well, pocket quarterbacks require offensive linemen. Bo Nix is a more mobile quarterback, but he's still a rookie. So you kind of put those two in kind of the same camp in terms of what their skill sets are, because you're still trying to learn the NFL and then read the field. Bo Nix is not at a stage yet where he is used to seeing complex defensive schemes. It's certainly not NFL caliber complex defensive schemes. And he is making bad reads. He is not picking up on the minor nuances. I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm simply saying you can't expect the dude to do it when he's never seen it before, right? Preseason at this point no longer really counts as a true NFL defense or a true NFL defensive scheme when they're scheming against you. And so that's why my whole point in the entire preseason lead up to the season before they named him the starter, which is well, you got to own it now. And I still maintain that. You got to own this now. The dude's looking like trash, but you got to own your mistakes. And that is, you got to leave him in, or you have to then put in an offensive scheme that only one of the other quarterbacks can run. And you got to play it as we're not benching Bo. We're just mixing our offense up. And therefore, Zach Wilson's got to come in. And you do that because you need more plays under center. Bo Nix has struggled, and I don't mean just a little bit. I mean a lot with plays under center, and that limits your offense in terms of what you can do and how you can protect the quarterback. Really, there is only one play forward for my Denver Broncos in terms of what they need to do. Only one. Our offensive line sucks. They just suck. They are awful. Garrett Bowles needs to be taken behind a barn and just sent off to pasture. Okay, the dude's awful, and I've been one of the lone people in the MHT network that's the dude's awful. He's got to go. I said the same thing about Justin Simmons, and it took him forever and a day to get another team. Okay, so again, these are consistent facts that I've kind of put out there on the show. The other problem we have is Bowers. I had some hope for him because I thought his skill set may have been transferable. I was wrong. That's cool. It happens.
Who?
Powers.
Oh, I thought you said Bowers.
I thought he said Bowers too.
Yeah, I thought he said.
I was like, who's on the Broncos named Bowers? Yeah,
Powers.
Austin
He has not been good. He has not been good.
Austin Powers.
He has not been good. And again, we have an offensive center who has been piss poor, and that's being kind. And like literally from left tackle, left guard, and center, you got no one.
Sounds like the Raiders' offensive line.
And then you only get to a decent lineman once you get to Quinn Miners, but then the dude's got to try to make up for a trash center and a right tackle that can't block himself out of a wet paper bag. And then when he finally does get out of the wet paper bag, he hurts his ankle. Right? So this is a huge problem for my Denver Broncos, which is just the quality of our offensive line is not where it needs to be to support a rookie quarterback. And so Dreamweaver is here, and I just want to thank Dreamweaver for joining. He runs and is a part of the Nothing Rhymes network, which is an affiliate of MHRT Network as well. I was participating actively in their chat yesterday. I only see two ways forward, or one way forward for my Denver Broncos, and that is this. You need to then move to what's called a 12 or a 13 personnel offensive scheme. But you need to do it specifically. Like, you can't just run a 12 personnel and say it's going to work. You need to flank your tight ends to the outsides of your tackle. So you need a tight end to the left side of your left tackle and a tight end to the right-hand side of your right tackle. And then from there, you then implement more complex but more aggressive blocking schemes to force the run. And it's the only way that my Denver Broncos are going to be even modestly competitive this year.
Richie, are you really a Broncos fan? Because I mean, there's not one positive thing. Can I give your team something positive? I mean, really, you do have a positive. You got a linebacker out there by Singleton who's been playing his ass off. He's been looking really, really good.
I agree. Except you will also go back and look at my recorded film on the network. He is the one guy that I've stated since the very beginning that I said he's going to show out. And guess what he's done? He showed out. But the point is, and actually I would go as far as this. The Denver Broncos defense is the only reason why we've even looked competitive in these games that we've played thus far. Like, the defense themselves, let's put it this way. Against the Steelers, we only gave up 13 points. In any normal football game, you're winning when you only give up 13 points.
Yeah.
But not my Denver Broncos.
Richie, it's going to take more time. Now, and I know you weren't one of the few that were saying, like, oh, yeah, Bo Nix is going to come out and light the league on fire this year. But to all Broncos fans, or maybe football fans in general, that coming into the season before a snap was taken, if you were thinking that Bo Nix was going to lead this team to the playoffs, you were setting yourself up for failure. Because he's a rookie QB. You should just be happy, and I'm not saying you in particular, Rich, because I know where you stand on it, but fans in general should just be happy that Nix is getting this playing time, but there should have been zero expectations moving forward for him. I understand you guys have a great defense, but like you mentioned, the O-line is trash, the running back room is trash, and you really only have like two solid receiving options.
Oh, no, I disagree with, in my opinion, Javonte Williams, after his major knee blowout, and make no mistake, I feel for the guy. The dude literally tore everything. And I don't just mean like, hey, he had a bad, no, he tore everything in his knee, like everything. Like, man. I think he probably also had a hangnail at the same time. Like, it was bad. Like, it was bad.
Sounds like a Caleb Williams injury.
Yeah, like it was really bad, right? And so I feel for the guy. He was showing out when in his first year and a half there, right? Like he was looking amazing. The problem here is this. When you bring in a rookie quarterback and you're having them come into the league, you need to be able to give him the time to then read the field and make the right throw. And especially in the first early stages of the season, he's going to struggle to do that because he's not used to seeing the complexities of an NFL defense. Now, look at what the Chiefs have done. Look at what the Chargers have done. Look at even what the Texans did when they got CJ Stroud, okay? Yeah. So many people are sitting there saying, well, look at CJ Stroud. Okay, let's look at CJ Stroud. The Texans went out and got themselves offensive linemen that fit the scheme that they wanted to run, and then CJ Stroud, surprise, surprise, looked good. Like, that's the way you go forward. You either protect your rookie quarterback and then you get your guy, or you build everyone else around the guy, and then you kind of do what KC did, which is to say, now we're going to trade up to get the guy, and then we're going to kill it. Like,
I don't know. I mean, the Texans didn't really build their team around Stroud till this offseason.
Yeah.
I mean, they went and got Tunsil, but it's not like they didn't build this offensive line. But I think the big thing, I think a big part of why Stroud and the Texans in general were so good, or why it was so praised about last year, is because there were no expectations. Everyone thought the Texans were going to be terrible. Stroud was just going to be a rookie QB, and then it's like, oh crap, they're winning games. But then these other situations where we're talking about Bryce Young being benched, or the view of Bo Nix right now is that the majority of the fan base didn't have that mindset. It's like, oh, this better be Patrick Mahomes, or I'm going to be so pissed off, which is it's just mind blowing that's the way this is looked at now, is not of okay, we're picking in the top 10. Let's get our guy for the future, get him experience, and build around him for our window. It's all about finding the window to be successful.
I think a lot of people were trying to take that Stroud route, in that you had insane success year one, you got your guy, and now in year two you're going all in while he's still on the rookie deal, and you're going to try to compete for a Super Bowl. That's the ideal that everybody wants to follow.
Well, of course, but you look what Houston got. I mean, they got 3 first-round draft picks and even I think a little bit more. To build all those different positions. Denver didn't have that opportunity. I mean, when you're getting rid of Russell Wilson, and you're taking an $85 million cap hit, and plus all the draft picks you had to give up to get Russell Wilson, it's gonna set you back.
Yeah.
But that's my point, Jack, right? Which is
agreed.
That's my point.
That's what I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you on that.
Yeah, like the Broncos shot themselves in the foot, and I really like Bo Nix as a quarterback, and I'm in the middle. Like, I'm not fully negative. I'm not fully positive. I'm just I kind of feel that I'm just being realistic, which is Bo Nix is a rookie quarterback, and I think he needs to learn. And I think the Broncos have done themselves a disservice as a team by throwing Nix into the fire, because the first 2 teams that we played are very good defensively and are going to make a rookie quarterback look silly. That's okay, by the way, but you let Nix learn in the film room, rather than on the field. And then you ease him back into the games, because let's put it this way. In his first game, he made many of the same mistakes as he did in his second game. Okay? And that was what my concern was going to be. And here's where Cowtown and everyone else in the chat can disagree with me all you want, but the All-22 in the film doesn't lie. So good luck with that one. Which is, Bo Nix has gone onto the field now 2 games in a row, and he has greatly struggled to read the entirety of the field. And part of the reason why he's struggled to read the entirety of the field is that he's been unable to directly recognize the defense that's been put in front of him and know where to go with the ball before the snap, like as in the pre-snap reads, and or because this can be two ways. Either A, know where to go prior to the snap, or adjust the protections accordingly to allow a successful play to occur. Like, both can be true, and you can do both things, and they will both lead to success. But Bo Nix has struggled to do either. That's the problem. And I think it's the speed of the NFL. I think it's the complexities of an NFL defense. You're getting defensive backs at the NFL level that it's mind-blowing for a rookie quarterback to kind of be like, the dude can make up that amount of ground that quickly. Like, these are things that a rookie quarterback is just not used to dealing with. And I think that getting him that time of seeing the film and seeing the tape and recognizing what other quarterbacks are doing ahead of him on the depth chart, because I do think Stidham and Wilson are technically slightly ahead of him on the depth chart, but he's a rookie first-round pick quarterback, and they wanted to throw him into the fire anyway. I just personally think that that's a mistake. I think that they could have slow played him into the season and yielded a result that I think they're ultimately looking for, which is, we know we have our guy, which, by the way, I agree with. I think Bo Nix can be our guy at quarterback. I just think that they made the mistake of rushing him into the games. And I think that it's just, we're seeing those results play out.
I think that the Broncos expected to compete this year, and that's why they wanted to start Nix right away. I feel like, and it might have also been a little bit of like pressure from the fans once they drafted Nix to start him right away, because like we had already talked about on this show, at least us three here didn't really believe that either one of those.
True.
I don't think either, of me, Jack, or Alex really believed that Nix was going to come in and just light the league on fire and just absolutely ball out. But I mean, he just needs time. Like, this first season is a wash. Nobody's going to look back at this season and be like, oh, well, he's a bust. He's playing better than Caleb is right now. And Caleb was a number 1 overall pick.
I agree.
But that's just the way it goes in the league. He's going to have his lumps. And it's going to be rough as hell to start, because like you said, he's never experienced this NFL game speed before. He's never experienced the talent that these players possess, because it's night and day from college. But I also feel like he is mentally tough enough and confident enough in and of himself that he won't look back on this year unless they bench him. That is the one thing you cannot do with the Broncos. You cannot bench Nix after you just started him for the season. You got to ride him out the entire time. But if that's the case, if that's the case and they do ride him out for the rest of the season, I don't think he's going to look back at it. We're not going to look back at it at a year like where Bryce Young was. I feel like everybody looked at Bryce Young's rookie season and were like, oh, that's not going anywhere.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Like, they don't have anything, and they didn't have to unload $85 million worth of dead cap from a quarterback that they took. They were just that bad. So I get it with the people already panicking a little bit on the Knicks train and wanting him to be that next Stroud Mahomes, whatever you want to call it.
Still,
but
can
I think
be, though.
I mean, yeah, he still can be, absolutely. But I think it's also important to maybe take a step back, and I'm talking to Broncos fans here, and temper those expectations that you had before week 1. Like, I'm not sure if I said this in my predictions, but I think I had the Broncos finishing third in the division, third or fourth in the division. But that's not a bad thing. Like, if anything,
no.
The Broncos probably want to finish lower in the standings this year so they can go get either a bona fide wide receiver 1 for him, or you take the best damn tackle in the class. Like, that should be their path moving forward.
I mean, the win for this season should just have 1 or 2, quality wins, quality games where he does something at the end of the game to get you
lead the game-winning drive.
I mean, it's like I agree with Cowtown that, like, I mean, you spend the draft capital on that, and you're not in the position to let him sit behind someone that is more mature and arguably better in in working the system and playing the game, like you have to play him. And what better way for him to get experience and be able to, at some point be able to read that NFL defense and be comfortable enough to identify, a hot backer and change the protection. I mean, he's not going to get that in practice with guys going 75% speed, just trying to make it to the next game. He's going to get that, in the game. So, I mean, I think the bigger problem is just the fan base not tempering their expectations to the situation that they're in, because no team's going to be able to dump, 4 draft picks to get a quarterback, then sign them, eat the largest amount of cap money in history to get rid of them, and expect to just be instantly 12-3 the next year. Like, it's just not going to work that way.
And you got to look at year 2. It's like, once, you actually get a full thing of draft picks, and they're going to be probably really good picks, and get all that free cap space to go and fill those holes that are out there to complement, the Broncos defense.
See, this is what my problem is with my Denver Broncos, which is we've done 3 or 4 things just so badly. I have no other way, like just so badly. We paid Powers a whole bunch of money, and he is not good enough for his contract. We paid McGlinchey a whole bunch of money, and he is nowhere near at his contract level. We also went and traded away 2 firsts and 2 seconds and gave Russell Wilson a mega deal before he even saw the field. And now we're eating the largest amount of dead cap in NFL history. So even with just those 3 or 4 things, depending on how you want to look at them, all grouped together, my Denver Broncos have really shot themselves in the foot twice, unlike Aqib Talib who only did it once. They've really shot themselves in the foot twice, and now they're surprised that they're limping. You know what I mean? Like, to me, of course you're limping. Like, what did you expect? Yeah. Stop it, right? Like, just stop it.
Tank for Tua. That's the play. That's the mindset. But I mean, that's how the Dolphins fans were for 3 years, and look at them now. Look how competitive they are now. But they slow played it.
I actually think that Bo Nix is in fact an ideal quarterback for Sean Payton. I truly believe that. I like all of the offseason, chirping and all this stuff. Like, I kind of ignore half of it. But I actually do agree that I think Bo Nix is actually a great quarterback for Sean Payton, because I think that he is mature, and I think he does have the mental fortitude. The only problem is he doesn't have an offensive line, and he's still trying to learn how to read defenses. And I think that the offensive line being poor and the complexities of NFL defenses are just a bridge too far for a rookie quarterback, even at Bo Nix's mental maturity and caliber. So I have always maintained, pretty much in the entirety of the show here, that I thought either you bench him for the entirety of the season, or by midseason, which I actually adjusted my expectations as I saw him in preseason. And I think you move to like a mid-season change out where you let him adjust and learn and see the thing. Like, you understand? I don't think you bench him for the entire year, because that was what my original kind of projection was. I saw him in preseason. I said, "Oh no, the guy's actually better than I thought he was going to be." But I adjusted it to kind of mid-season, or maybe just after mid-second quarter of the season. And then you insert him. To me, that's appropriate. You let Wilson or Stidham kind of show him the ropes and kind of go through the Steelers game and go through the our first game and say, here's what a defense looks like, and this is why you don't throw a red zone interception like that. That wide open dude in the middle of the field that you ended up then throwing an interception to Cortland Sutton in the back end of the end zone. This is why you take the underneath throw, because NFL DBs are actually way faster than you think they are. Like, these are the little quirks that you allow a rookie to ask a question of in the QB room, and then coach him up accordingly. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, well, we'll see with him. We'll see what happens with Bo as the season goes on. But I think Broncos fans kind of set themselves up for failure with how high their expectations were for Knicks and for this team. But I mean, look, it's way too early to call it. We're barely in week 2 or going into week 3. I just think they need to get some more pieces around him. They got to get off of that Russ contract. I truly think we can't start judging Knicks until the Broncos are completely off of that Russell Wilson dead money, because you're not going to be able to build a team with that much of dead cap. There's just no way in hell. So we'll see. We'll see what they do.
That's what I was just trying to say. Let's.
It takes us a week, right, to change the tune a little bit.
I mean, Bo Nix right now has more passing yards than Trevor Lawrence and Josh Allen. I mean, he doesn't have any touchdowns, but that's what I'm saying. There's, not to say I watch the games, but you see flashes that with the proper building around him, it can be there. So, that's all.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say on that. But before I got to get out of here for this fantasy show.
Oh yeah, tell us about.
Fantasy pod,
you better hurry up.
Chiefs game, huh?
Oh man,
what a game though! It was a great game, very
great
exhilarating. Game. I'm a little upset that this is happening too late in the show for me to go pull up the comments, but I guess let's start by addressing the zebra-colored elephant in the room, with people saying, Chiefs get all the calls. Anyone that's calling themselves a football fan is going to try to tell me that was some, paying the ref situation at the end of the game. Just turn in your fan card. Come on. I mean,
absolutely not.
I get it.
Absolutely not.
But that was very clearly defensive pass interference. You can't
when you're on the opposite side year after year after year, getting penalized for things that don't make sense, and then you see other teams get it the total opposite way.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I ain't turning no fan card because that.
I totally understand. That narrative that other fan bases had, because it's the same narrative I used to have with the Patriots, for however long Brady was there, 20 years of just how do they always win? I mean, it just goes that way. Crappy way for the game to end. For them to get in the situation for Bucker to do what Bucker does and make a, field goal. But at the end of the day, that was pass interference, and the call's got to be made. Sorry. I mean, that was a pretty egregious one out of all of them. The Super Bowl against the Eagles, the holding there, I get that narrative of maybe in that situation, don't call the flag. This one was pretty damn egregious, though. Let's be honest.
Okay, the one call out of the hundreds of others.
The only thing I hate about it is then I got to spend time, instead of talking about what went right and winning the game, of protecting the fact that defending that the Chiefs get all the calls, which not true, but I get.
Mahomes has 50 plus interceptions that have been called back because of penalty in 6 years of playing.
I mean, that stat's also very skewed. It's a very skewed stat you're using.
Brady had 16 in 20 years.
That's a different game. He also is passing. He has the most pass attempts out of any QB. That's gonna happen.
But
and
50?
That also doesn't account for defensive offsides where it's a free play and you're throwing it up.
That's
I
true.
can think
That's
of
true.
5 times Mahomes has been picked off because he's just lobbing it down there. So I mean, it's kind of a skewed stat. If you I get 45 to use it to pump that, sure. But end of the day, it was a great game. It went kind of exactly how I thought it would, because for whatever reason, no matter how crappy the Bengals look against some of the dustiest teams in the league, they, as Kelsey said on his pod today, those guys are very comfortable playing with us, and you can tell. I mean, they are kind of designed. I think the way they've built their team was to beat the Chiefs or compete with the Chiefs, because it seems to be they always have some schematic answer to whatever the Chiefs are doing in these high pressure situations. Burrow came around, certainly played good. Jamar Chase kind of got locked down by McDuffie, but hey, whatever. But yeah, I mean, all around great game. Definitely some things to be concerned about as a Chiefs fan. The rookie left tackle definitely had a rookie left tackle day in this game, going against Trey Hendrickson. who I think I said to Robert, I was like, I don't understand that guy because there's nothing physically elite about him, yet he's somehow one of the most elite pass rushers in the NFL. He's just like the old man that shows up to play basketball and he just dominates in the post. He's just there. But yeah, so I mean that definitely played a factor in some of the games because Hendrickson about single-handedly, I mean, changed the landscape of the game and probably would have won the game for the Bengals, and it triggered the Chiefs to make a switch and bring Wanya Morrison in the last few drives because of how badly it was going. But yeah, I mean, so that's certainly something to be reserved about. And then towards the end of the game, Pacheco got hurt. It didn't look as bad with how he got up and walked off.
And then they said 6 to 8.
Yeah, certainly bad now. And Reed said today, yeah, he could be back by this season or next season. So now it's like unknown.
You never want to hear your head coach say that.
Did you hear the news?
Well, who's taking over now? Who's gonna
that's where I'm going.
Take over?
Well, they have made a few moves. They brought Keontae Ingram up from the practice squad, and then re-signed former Chief / former Brown Kareem Hunt. But yeah, he'll take some time to even get implemented in because he's literally off the street. So
Steele is
for right now. All reports are they're giving Carson Steele crack at running back 1, and that makes sense because he fits kind of the same mold as Pacheco and probably could be the best mimic to what Pacheco brought to the offense. But at the same time, he's also fumbled twice in as many games and is an undrafted free agent rookie. And that is a lot to put on, one person's plate. I mean, the moment's there for him to take. Whether that happens or not, it's to be determined. But, if for purposes of fantasy or curiosity of who's going to be it's going to be Steele to start. I imagine it'll probably be Steele to start, but overall pretty even rotation between him and Pirine while Kareem Hunt works himself up. And Keontae Ingram as well could potentially get into the fold just because I think it's going to turn into way more of a committee, which sucks. But, that's why you make moves to, bring, a Xavier Worthy type option and depth to your offense so that you can, not miss a beat. I mean, this is certainly the big test now, right? Like this is the huge adversity of, the goal is to be the first team to three-peat. Was already hard enough. It's going to be only harder losing your RB1 for probably the whole season. So, it'd be interesting to see how they change things and approach things schematically to counter that. Our knock on wood, Carson Steele just fits the rest of the Chief molds. It just happens to be a guy that works out and, he might, and he's better than Pacheco. We'll see. But yeah, so that's definitely something to be reserved about, going into these tougher game, although that was a pretty tough stretch. First 2 games is Ravens Bengals to get out of that 2-0 and only be worried about your rookie left tackle. Well,
your running back.
Yeah.
What about Hollywood Brown? What's going on with him?
Oh, he's done
out
for
the season. Yep, that was announced I think before the game. So that component of it's out as well. But Xavier Worthy had a great week 1, pretty quiet week 2. But you got to imagine they're going to implement him in. Rashee Rice has been on a rampage. He
was a beast.
He's on the run from the law.
Not in a car though, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Rick, if you're still here, I know he was commenting on that. It doesn't, from all indications, he's not getting suspended this year. And from all indications, his criminal proceedings are still very much ongoing. And I know I've said on the show,
is still ongoing.
I know I've said on the show, I that's probably a strategy play from his legal counsel, for the purposes of him being able to play in this, run it back tour, so to speak. But
so Alex,
so,
just out of
so interesting to
curiosity,
watch.
Are you saying that Rashid Rice is showing that he has some wheels?
He's a speedster. I mean, he did completely roast Cameron Taylor-Britt for a touchdown. But I got to give Cam Taylor-Britt a shout out. He probably had the dirtiest interception of all time. Or one
that
of them,
was
with an Odell Beckham style catch,
like Antonio Cromartie, like
super lazy throw by Mahomes. And I mean, you could tell he just kind of thought Worthy would eventually outrun Taylor-Britt, but Taylor-Britt's pretty effing fast himself, and really, really stupid lengthy. So yeah, I mean, but kudos to him. That was hell of a play, sick interception, all around great game. Chris Jones continues to be a dominating presence. Honestly, the Chiefs' defense has kind of picked up where it was last year, and is playing their ass off. And really, kind of like last year. I mean, a big reason of why they're winning these games is because in the crucial moments they're making stops and making plays.
3 sacks, right?
Yeah, and McDuffie to switch to the Snead role and totally shut down Jamar Chase. I mean, he gave up 1 catch to Jamar Chase the whole game. And it's nice to see those things. Very curious and reserved to see how the offense looks in this. I mean, this game coming up with Atlanta, because of the quick turnaround and losing Pacheco. But as long as the defense keeps playing good, I mean, they'll be in the games. It'll just be up to, how things shake out at the end.
Well, I mean, you have kind of the tale of 2 sides of the screen here, where you have the Chargers and Chiefs have kind of shown that they're ready, prepared, and are doing well this season thus far. And then you have obviously my Broncos can't figure out how to win a game, and then the Raiders are kind of just split. So it'll be very interesting going forward to see, as the season progresses, if the Broncos start to slow play this and kind of start to improve, which I suspect we will, but you never know. And then to see kind of if the other 2 teams, in terms of the Chargers and Chiefs, start to come down a little bit more to earth with a few losses sprinkled in here. But I think it'll be very interesting. Alex, if I'm not mistaken, I think you have the fantasy podcast coming up soon. So if I'm going to throw over to you real quick, so you can talk also about your week ahead as we start looking to week 3. What are your thoughts? What do you think we should be looking for, et cetera, et cetera?
And what's the score?
Yeah, I mean, they got the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta, Sunday Night Football. So it'll be nice to watch them in prime time, I guess. And we just saw the Falcons come off of a good win against the Eagles. Cousins kind of flipped the script of people saying, he's not fully healthy, and looked pretty Kirk Cousins-esque. I mean, biggest thing to watch out for is how the loss of Pacheco is going to impact, how this offense has functioned really since he's been inserted into the lineup. I mean, the Falcons have a great defense. They've added. I mean, they got Judon and other pass rushers, but their secondary's pretty freaking good. And they're very turnover opportunistic. So those are the 2 biggest thing is Mahomes can't be as sloppy as he was in the Bengals game. That's just moving forward. And then they're going to have to control time of possession because, Kirk Cousins is a move the ball, death by 1,000 cuts kind of guy. So they're going to have to, control the clock, kind of play teams how teams play them, and control the clock and force them to have to make big plays, just because you're going to have to expect a little bit of an offensive lull with Pacheco being gone, and other players not being totally up to where their allure carries them at this point.
Okay. Wait, did you give us a score?
No, I did not. I think the Chiefs will probably win. I would say like 21-17. Let's just say it'll be something close.
All right. Low scoring. All right.
I mean, they've been low scoring this point. I think most games
very
have.
true.
So it's
Pretty
been
much.
a wild year, offensive wise. Yeah.
I think you're going to score a few more points. I think it'll be more like a 27-13 kind of game. But I do think, well, at some point, I think you guys are going to start clicking, and I think there's going to be a few things that are going to start happening. And so I'd like to think that with your coaching and the talent you guys have, that you're going to probably start, meshing, sadly, sooner rather than later, given kind of the way you guys have been the last few years. So I do think that this might be one of those first games that you might start seeing it. But obviously, as a Broncos fan, I hope not too soon. But I do think it's going to start happening sooner rather than later, because I think your team has got, an abundance of talent, an embarrassment of riches, if you will, given where you're at this point.
Get it together after week 4. Then you guys can get it together all you want.
We got to get right this game for next week, because I know you'll be coming in with all your ish talking. So I gotta be feeling good about it.
Get in now. Get it when we can.
If both of us are 3-0 going into that game, it's going to be even better than I thought it was going to be.
It'll get flexed.
Oh yeah,
Alex is going to start sweating.
Yeah. I've sweating Chargers games before, and then Kelsey or someone has done something to make it right.
Yeah, no, we don't have Mike Williams anymore for his 3 touchdown 2-point conversion game-ending performance anymore.
Right.
Well, I know Alex has got to get going for his Lightning Fast Fantasy podcast. I want to thank you for your take on your Chiefs, and
all right,
we'll
Alex.
take it from here. Once we're done here, guys, go check Alex out on Coach's channel. And we can go from there.
Oh no! Don't hit it. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, God no! Please not again.
You hit the red button. I'm driving down there to get you.
Got out of here before you could finish.
Yeah.
I'm out.
So I think that the Chiefs and the Chargers, obviously, at this point, are going to be in a bit of a volley until proven otherwise. Obviously, the Chargers, I didn't expect them to come out this hot. I did expect them to be better this season, but I didn't expect them to be this hot out of the gate.
Fire.
Yeah, good on you. Looking ahead to your Chargers game, I want to give credit where credit's due. You win a bunch, you should get to go first and kind of give your takes, early on. Robert, where do you think your team's going to go with this game? Let's just be honest. The Steelers are certainly not the Carolina Panthers.
No.
Okay.
No.
So let's just start there and go.
Yeah, ain't gonna be no 26-6 or whatever I said last week for Carolina. No, this is gonna be. Man, this is. If you guys thought the Chargers Raiders was smash mouth bully ball, this game is gonna. Man, you know what? I'm just really hoping everybody comes out of this game healthy for the Chargers. I will consider that a win if we get everybody out of this game healthy. Because this Steelers team and Mike Tomlin, people want to disrespect the man year in and year out. He is a damn good head coach, man. A damn great head coach. And anytime you go up against somebody like that with that kind of pedigree, you're a little worried. Okay, the Steelers, I know their offense isn't. It's really not great, to be honest, if we're being, truthful here. And that may be the only reason why the Chargers probably have a shot in this game, because clearly our passing offense, I should say, hasn't been clicking what it should be. Not that it's needed to with the run game, being what it's been, but I also don't think I don't think Dobbins is going to go for another 130 by himself. Like this is going to be a low yards, low points game. I'm predicting like 13-10, 13-7. It's going to be one score. It's going to be nowhere near. Smash the under on this game if you're a betting person, because this is going to be as low scoring as it gets. I do predict a win for the Chargers, though. And the reason why, it's really one simple reason. It's Justin Herbert, and the divide between him and Justin Fields is so astronomical that although the Steelers defense might be better than us, and it probably is better than ours, although we have played better this season, I think that is that's where it's going to be. It might take Herbert like a last, tie game, drive us down, get us in field goal range type of game. And this is probably the most nervous I am for a game. Not that I wasn't nervous for the Raiders game, but as you mentioned, Rich, the AFC North and those defenses are just ferocious. And this team, this is the big test right now. Obviously, before the Chiefs are the big offensive test, but this is the big toughness test for this team. If you're able to outlast TJ Watt and the Steelers, man, I was already high on the Harbaugh supply, but I might be in the sky after this. But I'm going to say 13-7, Chargers win.
And I'm looking forward to that Joe Alt report versus Watt.
Yep. That's it. I mean, dude,
I'm going to be watching that kid all year round. I want to get all the reports from you, Robert.
I'm watching him as close up as I can, and man, kind of like how you were saying, Jack, when you guys originally took Bowers, it kind of took you a little bit to agree with the pick and be happy about it. That was me with Alt. I really wanted Neighbors. I really wanted this passing attack to Herbert needed a receiver. Let's be honest, but man. You know what? I'm done questioning Harbaugh. I'm done questioning the methods. He has already shown me in these 2 weeks more than Staley ever showed me in 4 years. So I'm really excited for this game. And yeah, it's gonna be a doozy. It's gonna be like 20 combined points.
I have this being a 27-17 game for the Chargers.
Wow.
So here's my rationale. Here's my rationale for it. The Broncos D-line being banged up after adjustments held Fields to virtually no points in the second half of that game. I think the Chargers are better coached overall. I think you're going to be in a better spot. Now, where I think that you're going to have some interesting things, which is I think Alt's going to have his first
rough game,
real test. He's going to have his first real test where he's going to be like, oh, like that guy. Like, now, don't get me wrong. Crosby is no slouch.
Top 3.
Like top 2, top 3, like easy, right?
But Watt is
but Watt is a unique beast compared to Crosby. And the other thing that sets the Steelers apart is they have like 3 guys that are kind of like 1A, 1B, 1C across their D line. And they all have somewhat unique skill sets. Like they don't duplicate each other's skill sets. So Watt's your speed kind of shifty dude. And then you got another guy who's kind of a low gravity kind of mix mash kind of guy on their team. And then they got a kind of a power guy or 2 on the interior of the defensive line. And so the thing is they can mix those guys up and really wreak havoc on opposing offensive lines. And I think that that's going to be where Alt's real test is going to be, is that he's gone against Crosby, who's a bit of a blend. He's got some bend, but he's also got some speed. But he's kind of a bit of a jack of all trades, and he kind of just wins. The difference is that, pardon me?
He's a motor.
Yeah, he's just got a motor. Yeah,
motor.
And the player that I'm looking at, for that Chargers game is going to be Roquan Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an absolute great linebacker. And you, Richie, from what you just said with the defensive line and having him come behind, that's going to be an interesting matchup. Chargers have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL right now. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that all matches up, one against the other.
And all handle a delayed blitz. Can they manage a delayed linebacker blitz with a speed guy like Roquan Smith, who can come in a second or 2 late and then try to go between the tackle and the guard?
I think this game, more so than ever, we're going to see a lot of 13 personnel sets. We're going to see a lot of double tight ends on each end. It's going to be a lot of Stone Smart and Will Dissly. And I think this is why I say it's going to be a bit of like a, not a snoozer, but it's going to be a bit of like a low
Throwback.
entertainment game. Yeah, it's going to be. I truly don't think either offense is going to go above maybe 250 yards of total offense. Maybe one of us reaches 300. But this is going to be a battle. This is similar to what happened in week 1 with the Raiders. There's going to be a battle of who can win the turnover battle and can you score points off those turnovers. Because the Chargers won the turnover battle 3-0 to the Raiders, but I think we actually did score 1 touchdown. It might have been at the end of the game. But I think we also kicked 2 field goals after that. And a couple of, like on that fumble recovery from Minshew, we got down to the 9. And you're not able to punch it in from there. That does give me a little bit of concern for this team. I presume that these kinks will get worked out as the season goes. Harbaugh has already shown me that he's fantastic at making adjustments during the game. So I fully expect to see some big-time adjustments throughout the course of the season. Ooh, excuse me. But, yeah, it's going to be football fans or fans of a lot of points not going to want to watch this game.
Well, and Robert, I do agree. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. And actually, I have your Chargers winning it, 17-13. I think it's going to be a lot of field goals.
Mm-hmm.
But possession game, and whoever turns the ball over more is going to lose.
Yep. Absolutely. All right,
Jack, I'll close out with my Broncos. So you give us your take on where you think your Las Vegas Raiders are going. In your week.
All I know is if the Raiders lose, then I'm not coming on the show next week.
I saw a Raider fan earlier say something like they're on a bye week this week. It would be hilarious if you guys lost this.
Oh
game.
My God. It's like, I wouldn't even know what to say except for I'm going to watch you guys. And I have no comment. No, I believe it's gonna be a dominating game for the Raiders. The one thing I will say though, Andy Dalton is like 3-0 versus the Raiders.
Oh wow!
And when he's played against the Raiders, he's never thrown against under 236 yards. But it is one nice thing. Is the coach that did draft him in Marvin Lewis is AP's right hand man. So I think that gives him a leg up. But I think the Panthers will play better. So I will say they will score more points than they did against your Chargers, Robert.
Oh, yeah.
But I really wanted to call the game 23-13 as a whole. But since you got 26 points, I'm really hoping for 27. I mean, just for somebody, this has got to be it's got to be a shutdown win for the Raiders this week. I just can't even imagine it. There's not much more to say than that.
If you guys lose this game,
like I said, I won't be showing up next week.
No BS. AP needs to be fired. That is an unexcusable loss to the Panthers, especially after that impressive ass win against the Ravens. If you guys blow that game to the Panthers somehow, man, I might not even come on the show next week just from secondhand embarrassment because that.
Hey, Rob, Carlos. Yeah, it should be. I don't even know. I don't know how much fun the game's going to be because it should be all lopsided one side. But you know what? Hey, I'm looking forward to that because the first 2 weeks in the season, there really didn't. But there wasn't a lot to write home about. So except for the defense, and I want to see a little bit of offense. And I think this is a chance to get it. Brown's out for the year, their best defensive tackle, switching over quarterbacks now. I think that they're going to light them up. I still think
should.
I see it a 2-point score. Like I said, I'm calling it 23-13, but I'm really hoping for 27.
I think Crosby goes for like another 2.5, 3 sacks easily.
Possibly. It's very possible.
Yeah.
I think Crosby's going to have at least 3 sacks in that game.
Mm-hmm.
I just think
that means he'll be at 6 for 3 games.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be shocked if he ends up with 4.
Oh yeah, me neither.
Just because he's that type of player, and he doesn't take a play off. Like, you know what I mean? Like he doesn't say, "Oh, I'm good. I've got 3 sacks this game." He's
right.
Like, "No, my man. Like I until they bench me,
Drag me off the field.
I'm killing you, right? You know what I mean? Like that's just the kind of the way he's wired, and there's a reason why he's as good as he is, and so I could totally see him going like a 3 or 4 sack game against them, because I just think that he is a bridge too far. I mean, against a good offensive line, he's a bridge too far.
Yep.
Yeah, like against an offensive line like that, I mean, it's you're done.
Yeah, that's why I got to give kudos to all, for doing what he did. 11 times they played, no pressures. But, Diablo is out of the game or actually it's questionable. I don't think he's going to play. I think Luke Masterson's going to be starting at linebacker over him. And I've liked what he's done. He was a UDFA, but I've liked the way he's played. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I just hope for once, being in Northern California and, from the 70s, seeing every single game either live or on TV, and now they're out of the area, I'm having to catch replays. So I'm hoping to actually broadcast the damn game out here.
You and I got to talk after, Jack. I have something for you it might replace your cable, and it is amazing. You get every channel possible, every NFL game, all primetime games, every pay-per-view, and it's like $20 a month. So I will talk to you. We'll get in contact with you about that after.
Nice. So Richie, tell us about the Broncos, man.
So
what do you think?
I originally had us beating the Bucks when we started the season. I have adjusted after seeing what I've seen thus far, because you have to, you just have to.
Bucks look.
I think this is going to be a much closer game than most people think it's going to be, though. The Broncos defense.
I agree.
The Broncos defense is top 10 right now in the NFL, which is surprising because most people are like, "You guys are 0-2." It's like, yeah, but the defense is like legit. Mm-hmm. And so I think that we're going to continue to have a defensive performance that's going to really keep us in the game. And I also think that Baker Mayfield's going to struggle a little bit with Vance Joseph and how he likes to scheme. So I do think this is going to be a much closer game than most people think. I do have us, if we win, it'll be by one of those last-minute field goals. Mm-hmm. If we lose, I think it'll be because Bo threw an interception and it gets taken back to the house. So I have this as one of those weird toss-up games that you inevitably have in a season. And I'm not trying to intentionally hedge what my prediction is for the game. That's where I see this game going for the Broncos. So if we win, it's by that a 3-point last minute field goal. If we lose, I think it's because there's a pick and it kind of gets taken back to the house. And so we lose by 7. And
field position is going to be.
Yeah, exactly. And so the other interesting piece in this game here that is a wild card, and I mean truly a wild card, is how aggressive are the offensive adjustments going to be from Sean Payton? And just for the benefit of those who don't follow my Denver Broncos, because that's what we're talking about now, is Sean Payton has already come out the day after the loss to the Steelers. And he made a very interesting comment. And Sean Payton doesn't mix words, and he almost always follows through on what he says, especially if it's kind of to the negative side of the scale. And that is, I am reevaluating what each and every offensive personnel member is going to be doing and what their role is on this team. Now, to the average,
put them all under the hot seat.
Pardon me?
I said, good. Put them under the hot seat.
Well, I think that's a good thing because you have all of these offensive players like Cortland Sutton, who's got paid a bunch of extra money and really not lived up to the, additional kind of gifts, if you will, that the team gave him when they didn't need to. And, we have an offensive line that's incredibly highly paid, but they're playing like trash. And then, we have these other things that are all kind of stacked against us right now. And so what I think is going to be very interesting is, are we going to see heavier tight ends, breakout crossers? right now, Sean Payton likes running crossers with wide receivers as an offensive mismatch. Are we going to start seeing our tight ends with the flanking tight ends that I was suggesting earlier in the show? Are we going to see one of those tight ends run the flanking crosser so that you end up with a guy that's like 6'4", 6'5", and like 250, running that type of route? And because that can actually be a real mismatch for defenses, because you're going to inevitably either have a 250-pound linebacker going against like a 250, 260-pound 6'4" tight end. Well, that's a much more favorable matchup, right, in terms of a size ratio. And most of those tight ends are faster than a lot of those linebackers when they're running crossers across the field. Not necessarily straight line, but certainly crossers. Those tight ends are often a lot faster than those linebackers are, because the linebackers are having to catch up, whereas the tight ends are kind of have the advantage in that particular route. Another thing that I think is important for a lot of people to note that aren't following the Broncos, it is looking like Vele may actually be back for this game.
Wow.
That's way
pleasantly
faster.
shocking.
Interesting.
That is way faster than we all thought he was going to come back.
Mm.
If he is back, he is certainly somebody that is a mismatch type guy, height, size, speed, catch radius, etc. So he's another guy that'll be very interesting to come on the team and kind of coming back. And then the other one is there's not a lot of tape on Pawlowski at the NFL level. Who will inevitably or likely end up being our starting right tackle. We also have a dude who I expect to be called up from the practice squad at right tackle. And he, as Sean Payton has said, he is raw, but unbelievably gifted. And I mean, unbelievably gifted. I'm just grabbing his name again because it just slipped my mind as I was kind of going through it. And that is, sorry, he's not our practice squad. Sorry, he is on our active roster. He is Frank Crum.
Ah, yes.
And so Crum is another guy that might be a very interesting guy that if they're so inclined, they might do what they're doing with Bo Nix and mix him in every so often to get him a couple NFL game snaps now that he is kind of the next man up, so to speak, at the right tackle position. Because I do think that they are quite high on Crum as they once were originally on Pawlowski. And I think if Pawlowski can really show out, I think that he can kind of be perhaps a guy that kind of works his way as a, we're not letting go. Like every team has that guy that steps in. It's like, we never thought he was going to be the guy, but he's the guy.
You better hope that Crum is not a crumb or a bum. You better hope he plays well.
He's a big dude.
Otherwise, he's going to get ridiculed.
No, he's a big dude. Like he's a very, very, very large guy. Like he looked quite interesting in preseason and everything else. So he is 6'8" and 315.
God damn.
That's a big boy.
It's like half your weight.
Yeah,
Rich.
so he's. Pardon me?
It's like half your weight.
Yeah. So when you look at the guy, I jest. But when you look at the guy, he's a very large dude. The benefit of height like that is you typically have a very large wingspan to go along with it, which is a good thing for the tackle position. You just hope that he's able to perhaps put on a little extra muscle and mass for the NFL level, because at right tackle, you want a blend of size and speed. He's got the height. 6'8" is a large frame to spread 315 across. So then you kind of want him to maybe bulk up a little bit more so he can start moving guys off the ball better.
Is he 315 or 350? I thought you said originally 350.
No, he's 318. Like 1.8.
Okay.
Yeah, he's 318, 318.
And I will say, Rich, I was pretty impressed with your wide receiver Reynolds. He looked pretty good.
He was he was always going to look great. The question, and actually this one surprise is that he hasn't carried over some of his drop issues. He's been a very solid wide receiver in the Sean Payton offense, and you have to give credit where credit's due. He struggled in Detroit with a couple of key drops at key moments, which is why they let him go. But with the Broncos, he's seemingly done very well, and you have to give him some credit for doing his job and doing it well. I do think what the Broncos need to move towards is bringing on bigger bodies, expanding upon the offensive line through the extension of the O-line through tight ends, really force the run game to get going again so that because what is happening now to my Denver Broncos is twofold. One, the boxes are being stacked. So we're getting stacked boxes because Bo Nix is not throwing the ball past 5 or 6 yards on a consistent basis. So they're
sounds familiar over here too.
Right. So they're basically stacking the boxes now, which is really hindering the run game. So the one thing you can do to help with that is you can either go to like play action pass and stuff like that, but then teams aren't going to actually respect the run. So there's really not a huge point in doing that. So what you got to do is you got to force the run, and you can do that by playing with the flanking tight ends and doing kind of like 12 or 13 personnel. Robert, you're kind of indicating that you might see some of that, in your game coming up. And then once you get the run game going, then the play action pass comes. And then the, even bringing back some of the bootlegs that Denver is so infamous for in our previous years under Elway and
Omaha.
Omaha. And go to those like naked boots that the Denver Broncos are so famous for, going in that direction and doing some of those types of plays, which is not typically a Peyton offense, but right now it's kind of like a when in Rome scenario, right? Which is if what you're doing right now is not functioning, and that's what I said earlier in the segment here, which is, all right, on the sliding scale of old school Denver Broncos to Sean Payton and everything in between, how big of a change is Sean Payton going to start implementing in terms of the offensive playbook? And this is really where it's going to be interesting for me as a Broncos fan to kind of see how aggressive those changes are going to be. Bo Nix, and just to cover off the second thing as well, Bo Nix is not reading the field particularly well. You saw that in the red zone where he had that underneath throw to Burton, who was literally like right there. And instead he forced a throw to Courtland Sutton. You can't do that. You just can't. You will never win in the NFL doing that kind of stuff. And so anyways, that's kind of where I see my Denver Broncos. I predict this score is going to be anywhere from a 3-point win to like a 7-point loss. And I kind of see this as like in the low 20s, regardless of who wins. So like a 21 to 23 point game between the two teams, somewhere in that range. But
you got to stake out one score though. You got to call one score.
Give us one.
Do you know what? I'm going to give Sean Payton some credit here, and I will
predict a win.
I'll predict a win.
Hell yeah!
There you go.
I'll predict a win, and I'll go
20-17.
I'll go 21. I'll go 21-17.
Wow, 3 touchdowns. Okay.
Or some combination of that, but I'll go 21-17 just to kind of keep things
4-point win. Call it that.
Yeah.
Hey, you do have your backdoor where you said if the Broncos kick a walk-off field goal, it's just everything is voided. It's automatic dub because you said that from the start.
I did. It just I'm kind of like looking at where I think things are going to land, and I'm wanting to give Peyton credit for making bigger changes because he said he's going to, and so I think that with those changes, you're going to start seeing Tampa Bay having to catch up. And I think that's a better position for the Broncos to be in.
Are you home, Richie, or are you away?
I'm at home.
Okay. Then that makes more sense.
Oh, no. Oh, you mean the Broncos?
Yeah.
I think you meant me.
No, Rich, you're still kidnapped.
I just say, no, I'm locked in my basement. I thought we already established that.
No, it's in Tampa.
It's in Tampa.
It's in Tampa. Yeah.
We are away the next 2 games.
Oh yeah, because then you come home for us week 5, 6.
Yeah, we're away the next 2 games, and
Yeah,
then we
Raiders
return
got
home.
Broncos week 5.
Yeah.
Oh wow, you got back-to-back divisional games. Ooh, that's tough.
So the Broncos are away at Tampa. Then we got the Raiders at home for the Raiders. Like we're playing you guys in Vegas.
Oh no, is it week 4 or is it week 5? No, it's week 5 we play you.
Yeah, because we play you week 6 after our bye week 5.
Okay, then so we're away 2 games and then we're home for the
So on the road against Seattle, at home versus Pittsburgh, on the road for Tampa and the Jets. Then you play Vegas in Denver, and then you play us in Denver back to back.
Yeah. But and the Jets is an interesting one. We'll talk about that next week because that's going to be a very, very interesting game. I think that's going to be a bit of a slugfest. But anyways, guys,
and we do need to catch up on the AFC North too. We need to talk about that next week, just to kind of see where they're at as well, since that's the division we're playing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, and I don't think any of us expected the Ravens to lose both AFC West games either.
Wild.
I mean, like that I did not have that on my bingo card. I did not have that on my bingo card. But anyways, guys, until next week, where we're going to go deeper into the season, we're going to really start getting into kind of where each of us are at, probably by about week 5. I think that's
about
a
month
fair
in
assessment. And so anyways, guys, until next week, where the West Side is the best side, we're going to see you next week. Peace.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flight miles. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle. Wait a minute.